G'day, how you going? So I'm just going to be doing some free lunging, round penning with this filly here. Thoroughbred breaker, 2-year-old. She's a little sticky-footed. So what I mean by that is she's pretty laid back. Likes to sort of set her own pace, and she's a little bit lethargic with some of the things she does. So what I'm going to do early on with we train this filly is sort of just start I suppose you could call it a line of communication with her, where we're sort of just going over the cues I'm going to be using to get her to move her feet forwards, and also get her to understand to start coming in towards me, change direction, and eventually at the end of it look to stand and rest with me in the centre of the round yard if we can get that far. So this round penning drill, the goal is to initially, the way I'm still looking to do it, and a couple of people I've sort of followed suit this round yard and suit the way the results I want to get from this horse. So what I'm looking to do is, first I want to establish forward momentum, forward direction at a speed I sort of choose. So when I ask the horse to quicken up with the cues I'm going to be using, I want the horse to actually increase its speed. I'm going to step in front of the horse's drive line and ask it to turn into me. So I want the horse to learn to turn into me. If the horse turns towards the wall and goes back the other direction, I'll cut the horse off and continue it on the direction I want it to go. So the horse always turn into me. And then what I'm going to do is get the horse to learn to turn towards me, and I'll let the horse rest. I'll then look to try and disengage the horse's hindquarters and keep sort of 2 eyes on me. I'll then look to use that disengagement of the hindquarters to start drawing the horse into me. I'll spiral out, trying to draw the horse towards me and get the horse to maybe follow me and stay with me in the centre of the round yard, get its breath back whilst being with me, and sort of reinforce that, you know, being with me is a place of rest and a place you want to be. So initially, I'm going to start by establishing some forward direction. I'm going to do that by pointing in the direction I want the horse to go. She turns the opposite direction. Like I said, just then she turned with her bum towards me, so I just sort of cut her off and put her in the direction I wanted to go. I'm walking a small circle towards the inside of the round yard. If she looks to cut in on me like she just did then before, I might speed her up on that side of the circle just to keep her a little bit honest and keep her doing a nice full circle. The gate's over there, so she's sort of using the gate as a bit of a magnet here, so I'm going to get her to start doing a bit of a bigger circle around me, have her understand to keep that distance from me and not sort of cut in on that circle as much. If she keeps using this gate as a bit of a magnet, she starts doing a nice circle around me on this end. When we get close to the gate, I might use that as an area where I speed her up, so she starts to associate the gate as a place where you get sped up and the work gets harder, instead of a place of where you exit the round yard and where rest might be. So I'm going to actually get it to see if we can get a consistent lope around, canter around me for a few circles. My first signal to get her to move off is to point in the direction I want her to go. I'll then use my voice to click. If she doesn't respond to that voice, then I'll increase the energy by using the stick and string, spanking the ground. If she still doesn't want to increase from that, I'll increase that pressure, spank the ground harder, and then might get to the point where I might have to give her a spank on the arse to get her to just to lope off and increase that speed. Like, it's no use asking your horse to do something if you're not going to increase how you ask to get the result you want. Otherwise, if you're just going to ask the horse to do something and the horse doesn't, then you take that pressure away. The horse will end up just being desensitized to the cues you're using. So she's still cutting in on this circle a little bit on that side, so I'll just speed her up past this far corner. Just keep her outside me a bit here. The sand on the outside of the round yard's a bit heavier than the inside, so it sort of acts as a bit of a deterrent for her to be cantering a bigger circle on the outside. So she does want to cut in on me, she'll sort of find the easier going more to the inside of the round yard, which means it's a bit more necessary for me to put a bit more pressure on her to have her respect my space, because naturally she'll want to come in where the going's a bit easier. You see she's been a bit more honest with that circle on that far side now, so just going to see where she looks to stop for me. So I might speed her up past that gate where it's a bit of a magnet now. See if we can deter her from wanting to be near that gate so much. Now once I've got a consistent speed going, I'll get her attention by speeding her up, step in front of her, and let her change directions towards the inside. When she comes across the inside of the round yard, that's sort of where I want her to be in the end of this drill. So I'm just going to let her trot through the centre of the round yard, make that a bit of an easier time for her. And when she gets to the outside, I'll look to speed her up. Go. So we can get a bit of a consistent canter through here. I have to give her a bit of a spank on the bum then just to speed her up. Now because she's sort of just early in her training, she's sort of come in, I need to be mindful of the fact that she might be a little bit sort of unfit, so I need to be careful not to ask her to do too much physically where she's going to just be getting tired. So I'm taking notice of how much she's breathing and how much work she's doing, but at least early on I want her to be a little bit prompt in how she does things. Good girl. So she's sort of just looking for the rest now. I'm not going to push it too hard at the moment. We'll just sort of see if I can get a bit of a canter here, step in front of her. Draw her foot through the centre. We go past this gate, I'm just going to look to speed her up, step in front of her. Draw into the centre. Step in front of her again. Good girl. Like I said, she's sort of quick to, when things get a little bit physically taxing, she's quick to sort of come back and slow down a bit. So it's this little bit of an understanding of what her fitness level is and what she can do physically versus what she's trying to sort of bludge on, I suppose you could say. So I'm going to speed her up past the gate. Sort of missed it a little bit there. I'll speed her up as she goes past the gate here again. There we go. I'll step in front of her now. Draw her in. Good girl. Now, while she's sort of in a bit tighter on me here, she's also not trying to suck out towards that gate. She's sort of at least doing a consistent circle for me. If she wants to put her ears back and half, sort of threaten me a little bit there, I'm just going to speed her up, make her feel a little uncomfortable there. Step in front, change direction. So whilst I would have liked her to sort of canter a few more laps, fitness-wise, she's probably showing that she's knocking up a bit quicker than what I initially thought she would. So I'm going to do this drill at a little bit of a slower pace But if she does look to get her attention out and look elsewhere outside the round yard, I'm going to get her attention back on me by sort of speeding her feet up, like there. I should have got her attention a bit better then. I sort of stepped in front of her. I didn't really sort of speed her feet up or make any energy, so her attention wasn't really on me. So when I stepped in front of her drive line, she kind of ignored where I was. Step in front of her, change direction, good girl. Roll. Need to get on the other side of her a bit more. Kind of just gave me a little bit of a filthy look then. I asked her just to quicken up into a bit of a trot. I didn't really ask her to do too much. It was physically taxing. She kind of just, instead of being a bit of a yes sir, I'll move off, it was kind of a put your ears back and tell me to bugger off. So make her feel a little bit uncomfortable for showing me that sort of attitude. She does the right thing. We just sort of let her come through the center there. Good girl. She's a bit happier to do it this side. The other side, she's kind of giving me a little bit of a resistant look, but see if I can change directions here. Good girl. So now I'm going to give her a chance to have a bit of a rest here. So I want her to rest looking at me. Just going to step in front of her. As she turns and looks at me, I'm just going to release that pressure and just walk away from her. I'm paying attention to where her attention is. I'm looking to see, make sure she's sort of resting. Wants to give me attention. Whenever she sort of looks away elsewhere, I might sort of look to try and get her attention back on me and look at me. You know, all of it is just conditioning training, really. I just want to try my best to try and condition her to always be paying attention to me. Even when she's standing still to get her breath back, I want her to learn that getting your breath back also consists of looking at me. When you look at me, all the pressure goes away and you can get to relax and chill. So whilst her fitness isn't 100% at the moment, like, well, when I say 100%, whilst she's just sort of coming from the paddock and she's pretty much come right off the couch. She's having a little bit of a blow, a little bit of a sweat here, but she's certainly not exactly taxed. She really does want to do things sort of her pace, and when the work comes on, it becomes a little bit harder. She does very quickly look to slow down and see if she can go a couple of gears slower, but that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to keep walking towards her hip and see if I can get her to disengage her hip. She does it pretty well this side, so I'll try the other side. She looks away from me. I'll see if I can get that attention again. Here we go. So as soon as you disengage that hip, I'm just going to stand upright and look away from her, pretend I don't really pay much attention to her. So when I put that pressure on that hip, she takes a step. I'll reward that by releasing the pressure. Now, if she wants to take a couple of steps towards me, I'll just sort of play hard to get and walk away from her. She's following me pretty good here, so I might just sort of walk into the centre of the round yard, see if we can just get her to rest in the centre here. Wants to leave me, we'll just quicken her up and go back to doing that drill. A little bit sluggish. she's with me, I'll just give her a bit of a pat. This is essentially what I'm sort of looking for, is her to sort of look to catch me and follow me into the centre. Like there's more than one way to skin the cat, I suppose you could say, and there's like multiple different ways you can sort of do your different round penning and whatnot. But with this round yard the size it is here, I find this way of doing it can get a pretty good result. Sometimes a smaller round yard you can do it a couple of other different methods. The bigger the round yard, the more distance you have to cover yourself. So sometimes, a round yard that's slightly smaller than this one can be a little bit easier to do it. It's easy to get your horse's attention. The further away they are, the less likely they are to pay attention to you. So what we're doing here is just, like I said, we sort of have to do a little bit more work than what we normally would, but sort of doing it pretty well. So you sort of see, when you ask her to quicken up when things get a bit hard, she does look to put her ears back and sort of give a bit of a dirty look and growl at you a bit. So as long as I'm not pushing her beyond the point of what she can do physically, which I'm definitely not, watching her breathing and watching how she is while she's got a covering of sweat on her. She's not necessarily heaving in her breathing. So today's a bit warm, so you can imagine she'd sweat a bit quicker, but she's definitely a horse that wants to go her own pace. So I'm pretty happy with how she's learning to sort of come up towards me, which is good. So what I'll do now is, I've sort of got a bit of an understanding of how well she moves her feet and the sort of horse she is, sort of nature she has, and how she responds to cues I'm giving her. I'm probably going to put a long line on her and start doing some long line work with her, maybe some mouthing work with her, some head collar work with her, and start breaking down those body parts, getting control of her feet on the long line, and start still working on that sort of increase in speed and that impulsion sort of drills, and then I'll balance it out with some desensitising at the end as well. So she's not scared of any sort of tools I've got necessarily, or anything I'm doing. So she's a real sort of one of those horses that can be quite complacent with how you ask her to do things, because she's got no sort of fear in her of any sort of tools you're using. The horses have natural fear in them, or are afraid of the tools you're using. They're obviously quite easy to get to move their feet around, and you're sort of looking to do more desensitising than what you're doing with then impulsion drills. This horse is probably going to be a horse where you don't need to do as much desensitising, but you're probably going to be doing more impulsion drills just to get her to promptly move her feet when asked, instead of just sort of being really sluggish. I mean, you get a horse that's sort of sluggish like her, she's going to be one of those horses where she will sort of look to maybe stop going into different situations, such as like the wash bay, or she might be a horse that might think to stop when it comes to loading. So having her understand that you can control the pace and the direction that she goes on the ground will then sort of help build that mindset within her to understand to move promptly when you're on her back, when you're riding her, and also when you sort of hand her over to the client and they're doing just any sort of general handling with them as well. So she's a pretty chilled, relaxed sort of horse, as you can see, but she has got that streak where she wants to slow up and go her own pace, and she will sort of half put her ears back and give you a bit of a look to sort of say, I don't want to move, how about you back off the pressure and I go the pace I want. So we're just going to have to balance out understanding of what she can do physically, fitness wise at the moment, and what she's sort of looking to do as far as choosing not to go the pace that she wants to go, and sort of showing that bit of a sticky footedness that she's got, that you want to sort of train to be a bit more prompter and a bit more of a compliant sort of attitude when you ask her to move off. So it's just understanding what's too hard and what she's sort of pretending to be too hard, and he's just turning it up on you a bit. So we do a bit more round penning, and as her fitness increases, we're sort of going to be asking her to do a bit more at a bit more sort of higher pace, and the same on the long line. But yeah, it's good to see what she sort of knows on the ground and how quickly she's going to respond to the cues I'm giving her, and how she sort of reacts when I give her a signal to move off at a pace that's a bit quicker than what she'd probably prefer. But yeah, not too bad. But yeah, so it gives you a chance to get an understanding of what your horse is like. At a bit more of a distance, I guess. You know, if you don't know your horse, you sort of have it out and a bit further away from you, or if it's a horse that hasn't had much handling, sometimes you put a long line on them and look to lunge in with the long line, they can sort of start slowing up on you and jamming up and not really understanding what you're asking, because you might be pulling on their head as well as just asking them to move forward. So it's a very simple drill where they can get them to understand to move off forwards and start changing that direction, and get them to understand to sort of pay you a bit of attention, and understand that you can move their feet around on the ground without actually having a long line on them. It also helps with catching them. You know, it's a basis of all your groundwork sort of drills, really, if you want to use it as that sort of tool as well. But yeah.